What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we are in for a long one that could have been much longer, but we mercifully decided to break it into two. We are going to talk about all 29 MLS teams' needs. This video, as the title says, is the Eastern Conference. I will upload the Western Conference very shortly in a different video, but we are less than 2 weeks away from the season starting. We get kicked off on the 21st as Inter Miami plays Real Salt Lake, and then the following weekend, a few days later, the rest of the league kicks off their season. We got a lot to get to, a lot to dive into. So whatever the stage of the roster build is, teams have plenty of time to continue to add players or depart players before the end of the transfer window. Again, the season starts in 2 weeks, but the MLS primary transfer window does not close until near the end of April, which means MLS teams have more than 2 months to officially sign players. So yeah, let's just get into it. We're going to go team by team, talk about the offseason that was, the offseason that is, and the season upcoming, and what all 29 MLS teams need. Let's go. We're going to start with Atlanta United. Atlanta is one of my favorite off seasons this year. Look, they've brought in Bartosz Slisz, Stian Gregerson, Dax McCarty, Josh Cohen, and they did the permanent deal for Jean De Silva. That's at least 3 new starters, and 3 pretty high-level new starters, or at least, Stian Gregerson was $2 million, and Bartosz Slisz was $3.5 million, Poland International. These are in-prime players. Same thing with Josh Cohen. I think Josh Cohen is going to be the starting goalkeeper, but we shall see. He seems to have been getting runs with the kind of first group this preseason. I think that he's better than Brad Guzan at this stage of his career, but that obviously remains to be seen. These were needs. These were the biggest needs for Atlanta, particularly a defensive midfielder, and then obviously anchor center back that Stian Gregerson should be, or they hope to be, once it was very clear that Miles Robinson wasn't coming back. They filled everything that they need. The only small thing that they need in the interim is probably left back depth. Caleb Wiley is the unquestioned starter, but Ronald Hernandez is kind of the primary backup on both sides. And again, he's a natural right footer. Again, this is nitpicking. You're going to see that a lot of teams could use another left back. A lot of teams could use a fourth center back, right? So this is nothing major. I really love what Atlanta United has done this winter. The biggest thing on their to-do list is not even something that they can do right now. What they really need to do is have a plan ready if/when Thiago Almada is sold. It obviously didn't happen this winter. I'd expect it to happen in the summer because it's time, right? And the summer is a more robust transfer window. What Atlanta United need to do is have their top 3 targets, have a general idea of what that deal would cost, and be able to pull the trigger on a deal to replace Thiago Almada as quickly as the Columbus Crew signed Diego Rossi after transferring Lucas Elorrion to Saudi Arabia. It needs to be that immediate. It needs to be, it doesn't need to be, but I would probably prefer, and my assumption is that it'll be a player in his prime. Again, look at what Garth Lagerwey has done in his career in Seattle and Real Salt Lake. Look what he's done since he took over in Atlanta. Yorgos Giacomakis in prime DP. Saba Lobojanice in his prime, and his DP deal is structured in that they can add a senior DP even if Thiago Almada leaves, and they can still use their U22 initiative slots, which is, again, in the world of MLS roster building and roster rules, it's boring, but it's important, and they are able to bring in their version, or what they hope to be, their own Nico Laderos. Charlotte FC, another very interesting team this offseason. They have officially moved on from Karol Swiderski on a loan to Hellas Verona, opened a DP spot. He's been their best player over their first 2 seasons. They also sealed a deadline day transfer for Kamil Jóźwiak to Granada in Spain. That was absolutely huge. They needed these moves to happen before that they can make any significant incomings. They were planning for these moves to happen. That's why they had bids rejected kind of for attacking midfielders and everything. The cap sheet is much, much healthier now with those 2 players gone. They have 2 DP spots open, but they can only add 1 more senior DP because of kind of the way it's structured. My assumption is that they'll only add 1 this winter, but that's speculation rather than inside info. What they desperately need is a DP number 10, whether it's Groenbeek, which I haven't heard much on that. I know that they had other targets for the position. Likely a young DP at that position to make sure that they can use all 3 U22 initiative slots, which would allow them, again, they can officially elevate Nikola Pekovic to the first team. I think that's it's going to happen. It just needs to happen, and that's an easy layup for me to put on this needs piece. So again, watch that $3 million player from a Serbian, one-time Serbia international. What else that they need is competition on the wings. I really like Vargas. I do like Ben Bender. There needs to be more competition and quality and options for Dean Smith on those wings. I think one way to do it is take a big swing with a U22 initiative signing. They didn't quite work out, with Vinicius Melo, who's out. Again, Curran Vargas, I believe, is still on the U22 initiative. They can still add. Again, Petkovic will take up the second of the 3 slots, so they have one open slot. And look, David Tepper has talked about hoping that MLS roster rules can be relaxed so he can spend more money, whatever. He's talking a big game. You can spend money on the U22 initiative by a big transfer fee that doesn't go in your salary cap. If you want to spend more money, this is how you spend more money. And same thing with a young DP. So we'll really see whether this is just talk or if they mean it. And I believe that they mean it because I don't think that monetary ambition has been an issue for this team. It's just been kind of how the pieces have fit and what has and hasn't worked. I still believe in Enzo Capetti. We'll see how it works. I think that this team is going to look a lot more cohesive this year than it did last year. And maybe that's just the honeymoon phase for a new manager and hope springs eternal in the offseason. Or maybe it's Sir Minty holding a gun kind of behind my back here on the scarf wall. Whatever it is, it's I do believe, I'm excited to see what Charlotte will be. I think that they're going to be much more interesting this year. If not, much more straightforward, which is something that they desperately need after kind of the overcomplications that happened last year. The big picture is they need a DP number 10 and they need to hit on that player. The Chicago Fire, they got their club record signing DP forward Hugo Kuipers. That is a huge deal. $12 million up front with another $2 million in add-ons. It's like the fifth most expensive signing in MLS history. They got their forward. They got their man. It's been more about like a year. Like I thought they were going to do this last winter. They didn't, and they went out for one of the biggest deals in MLS history. So well done to them. What Hugo Kuipers needs is chance creation. Brian Gutierrez is a good chance creator. Xherdan Shaqiri can be as well. But the best way to do this is finding an exit for Jairo Torres, who very nearly made a move on deadline day to Mexico, back to Mexico. The deal did not get done in time. I heard it was kind of a race against the clock. Didn't quite happen, didn't quite get over the line. So Jairo Torres is still on the roster, but there are transfer windows open across the world, including in Switzerland, where Chicago's sister club, FC Lugano, is. So that's just one spot to look. But having him leave would open a DP spot, and they would have to use it on a young DP. But you can still find very good players, like, again, whether or not they'll be consistent. It's difficult just at the age, being under 23. But we'll see. That's an obvious one that needs to happen. They need to keep on overturning the roster. Gaston Jimenez, Gasper Chabilko, Suke. These are players that kind of would be best for all if they left. But we'll see. Those things still need to happen beyond Jairo Torres. The Fire no longer need him starting number 8 because 2 long months of pursuit, they got their man, Kellen Acosta. As I reported on Wednesday afternoon, the club are finalizing a deal to sign Kellen Acosta. He's joined up with the club in California, just needs to finish a medical and sign papers and documents, and everything will be all done. This is a huge signing for the Fire. They desperately needed starting number 8. They really wanted it to be Kellen Acosta. Again, Kellen visited the Fire on the first days of free agency. The Fire made him a priority target. They wanted him at the heart of their rebuild. They wanted him at the heart of this offseason. And that officially had Hugo Kuipers come in this week. Now is getting a commitment from Kellen Acosta. That is a very good starting point for this offseason. There's more work to do, like we've talked about with Torres and others. But again, Hugo Kuipers, Kellen Acosta, that's a great start for the Fire. Reigning Supporters Shield champions, FC Cincinnati. It's been very busy this winter for them. The latest move, they've officially signed Pavel Buka. He's going to be their starting number 8. That's the idea, again, with Obi Nwobodo as the 6. They've already added Miles Robinson. They've already transferred out Brandon Vazquez to CF Monterrey for up to $8.5 million. Alvaro Barrial is still here after the most of the transfer windows in Europe shut, and he's probably going to be here until the summer. They were working on a deal for Luca Orieno, who would play right wing back for this team, which I'm going to have to stop calling these positions right wing back and left wing back, because I kind of refuse to put wing back when we're talking about Alvaro Barrial and Luca Orieno, who played together at Felice Sarsfield as wingers. They are wingers, right? Like, so the bonus for having Miles Robinson and Matt Miazga and Obi Nwobodo and Ian Murphy, they're again, particularly Robinson, Miazga, and Nwobodo, they're elite players at their positions. And the 4 of these players are very athletic for their positions, and they can cover a lot of ground and win the ball. So you're free to do things like put wingers at wing back and just say, we'll defend with 5 players and we'll cover the ground for you. Obi Nwobodo is going to probably have to be the hardest working man in MLS next year, and he can be. So I'm very excited to watch this team in 2024. I think that they'll be even more fun to watch just because of how much all-out attack that they're going to have on the wings, and we'll see kind of how that evolves over the season. Lucho Costa, obviously MVP. Corey Barrett has already been in. I think that he's the starting center forward next to Aaron Bupenza. What I would like to see is they add another kind of physical center forward, somebody that can kind of compete with Bupenza and Baird, more like a Vasquez type, right? Like somebody who has a bit of a presence, because I really do like Sergio Santos, and he's a great change of pace off the bench. But he's in the same mold of Bupenza and Baird. And if Orieno, if he's playing as like that second forward role, it's a kind of the same thing. They have a lot of the same profile. What they need is kind of another physical center forward. And whether that's easy to find within MLS on the trade market, whatever it is, like somebody like Will Bruin, right? Like maybe Will Bruin of when he was in Seattle coming off the bench. He was an overqualified backup, but it was really great for them to have that option to come off the bench. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. As for the reigning MLS Cup champions Columbus Crew, I don't have anything that they need to do right now in terms of additions or subtractions. As long as Mo Farsi is here, despite some interest that was coming from the UAE, this team is set. They don't have any holes. They have a ton of talent. Again, they only lost Julian Gressel from the key roster last year, and they brought in Heinz Strosa, who might be a right wing back, might be a second forward, who knows? We'll see kind of where that. So that's really the only question I have right now. I think Mo Farsi is the starting right wing back, the right midfielder, but like, is Heinz Strosa, is he in that depth chart? Is he somebody who they view at that position? Or is he more of an attacking midfielder? Like, again, this isn't going to be the most exciting segment because there's just not too much to talk about. Can Jones play center back? I think he can, but everybody I've talked to in Columbus says that Wilfred Dante sees him as a center midfielder right now. Taha Harbaron, he's a super talented young player. Is he ready for first team minutes this year, like in the immediate future? Let's see if he is. He was awesome in MLS Next Pro, and he got his kind of first taste of that league last year. He went from GA Cup, which is, U17s, to MLS Next Pro, which is another step up. He hit that really, really well. Let's see if he's ready for MLS minutes. Again, it won't be regular minutes, and even if he is ready for regular minutes, he won't get them because of Nagby and Morris and Zawadzki in there. But I'm really curious to see what he looks like this year. Again, I don't got much for you. I really don't. Like, Columbus Crew are awesome. They're going to be one of the most fun teams to watch. It's okay to have a boring offseason because that means your team is really good and you don't have much to do. They kept hold of Cucho Hernandez through the winter. I didn't hear anything about any serious bids, but that doesn't mean that any interest isn't there. We'll see what happens in the summer. But, man, selfishly, I do hope that Cucho Hernandez stays. He's one of the most fun players in the league. That's really all you got. Another team in it for the long term, DC United. Ali Mackay took over as GM. Troy Lezane came in as head coach. And the name of the game this winter, just like it is for Austin, long-term building blocks. Christian Benteke is obviously that, so is Matthias Klick. They are on the wrong side of 30, though, and again, I think that they're going to be very good next year, those two players in particular individually. This team is not ready to compete, and that's the stage of the career that these two players are at, so it's a little bit of an awkward timeline. But again, what they need is to identify who are the building blocks under Troy Lezane in this team, continue to overturn the roster. Ali Mackay's done a very good job at getting rid of a lot of players this winter. It's not sexy, but these are things that needed to be done. They brought in Peltola, who's a young DP defensive midfielder. I wonder if he can be bought down in the future. I don't know. We'll see when the MLSPA salary figures come out because he was a free transfer. So as long as his salary is under $1.7 million, he can be bought down in the future, which would be useful. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Outside of finding the long-term building blocks, which I view, Aaron Herrera is one. I really liked that addition this winter. I think that they need one at center back for sure. I think that they need another in attack to be with Benteke. And we'll see what kind of happens in the interim future. I hope that they get to develop the young players. Christian Fletcher was really, really good for Swansea City U21s. He scored a ton of goals. Let's see how that translates to this league. I don't know what the U21 Premier League does towards MLS, but he's a super talented kid, and I hope that he gets some minutes this year. Matai Akamboni, Villarreal tried to sign him this winter. He's another super talented player, young center back. I'm excited to see him. Garrison Tubbs, I thought that was a good trade to acquire him from Atlanta United. So let's see what you have in these young players and if they're going to be the building blocks moving forward. Try to stay competitive. Is Murrell the backup number 9 to Christian Benteke? We'll see. He's had some good moments in preseason this year. Again, this is all about long-term building for the future and who's going to be part of this team and what the vision, what the culture is. It's a lot of big picture stuff. They needed a hard reset, and they're getting it right now. Inter Miami, I'm going to try to be as brief as I can here because they have gotten the lion's share of the headlines and the analysis because of Messi and their preseason tour to Asia and Saudi Arabia and Central America and Dallas and Frisco. Don't forget about Frisco. So they've done most of their work in terms of incomings. Look, you got Luis Suarez, you got Julian Gressel. They brought in a center back. Well done. They're dealing with injuries. Ben-Hak Ramasky is out for a few months. Facundo Farias is out for most of the year, if not all of the year, which sucks. I was really looking forward to watching him play. So the question is, do they have enough allocation money to be able to sign a young DP and buy down Gregory? I don't know. I don't have their books, but they continue to make trades. They could still make trades. One way that they could get that money is trading Jean Mota. He has a really big salary cap hold because of his salary and transfer fee combined. I think that he's a very good player in this league. I don't think that he fits really with what they have in the midfield right now. I think Gregory is a much better fit next to Busquets as kind of the bodyguard. Same thing with David Ruiz, Ben-Hak Ramasky, Julian Gressel. They have enough central midfielders to dispose of one. And I think if there's takers, whether it's in Brazil or in MLS, they could get some money, free up some cap space, which could bring in a young DP. Whether it's up, I know that they've been linked with a forward, they've been linked with a central midfielder. I don't know. I think that'd be the best way for them to move forward, but we'll see how that goes. CF Montréal. I talked about them at length in my last video, so I'm not going to go kind of too deep here. But I will reiterate again that I like what they've done this winter with Kokoro and Yankov in particular, and Laurent Courtois as a head coach. I think that this team is going to be a lot of fun. I think that this team is going to be very good, entertaining, and we'll see where they stack up in a very, very strong Eastern Conference. They've officially signed Joseph Martinez. I really don't mind the gamble because, again, they're not relying on him. Like, if he doesn't work out, I will be sad, honestly, but that won't end their season. They have other options up top. They have, again, I don't think that he's the first choice starter at the moment, right? Like, so it's not going to be a big issue. It'll be a disappointment, but it's not like it'll be something that harms the season, right? They need some right wing back depth behind Juan. I think he'll fit better in this team because, hey, just run end line to end line, my friend, and you have more cover defensively with a back three rather than a back four. Just do your thing, brother. Run, get crosses and do whatever. So I think that'll be a good fit. Again, what's the best 11? As you know, I had Chouanier at left wing back, and I didn't feel great about it because, honest to God, he could start at 4 different spots for this team. He's very good. He's very versatile. Getting feedback from Montreal fans, thank you. I have him in central midfield next to Wanyama, but it feels weird to not have Samuel Piet as a starter in this team. I don't think that this team necessarily is going to have a best 11. I think that they have probably 16 players that could be starters. So again, the starting 11 plus Campbell, Alvarez, Piet, Duke, and Joseph. What is that? Was that 5 or 6? Whatever. I think that they have a lot of starting caliber players, and I think that they're going to change a lot. I don't see them very often having the same starting 11 back-to-back, but again, that's all speculation. Who the hell knows? But this will be a fun team, and I'm looking forward to watching them. Nashville SC. The core is still there, that being Hani Mukhtar, Walker Zimmerman, Joe Willis, Jack Mayer, Dan Lovitz, Godoy, Davis, Moore, all that. Sam Surridge gets his first full season. All the DP spots are taken. All the DP spots are sorted. The play style, it's a high floor, lower ceiling, but they're going to try to change that. And the big addition this winter was Tyler Boyd. He comes in from the LA Galaxy. Is he the answer? Is he the difference? Is he somebody, I think that he'll be better for what Hani Mukhtar needs around him than, say, Fafaf Picault last year was, because with Jacob Schaffelberg and Fafaf Picault, those are similar profiles, and you need kind of different profiles for different games. And Tyler Boyd, again, he's good in transition, but I think he'll be better than, say, Picault and Schaffelberg are when teams invariably say, all right, Nashville, it's tied or we have a lead. Here's the ball. We're going to sit deep. I dare you to try to break us down. And we're just going to double team Hani Mukhtar, make sure we have a man on Sam Surridge. Don't allow good crosses. Let's see what you can do. I think Tyler Boyd will be better at solving those issues. But we'll see how it works, right? I feel like we've been having the same conversation about Nashville for the past few years. And I do want to reiterate, how many teams in MLS would bite your arm off to take what Nashville has done over the last 3-4 years, right? Like, so we view it, it's like, it's almost as if it's a disappointment, but if you take a step back to the macro view, they've been one of the most successful teams in the league. They've gotten to a final. They got to the playoffs every year. Hani Mukhtar has been, is MVP, has been one of the best players in the league during this time. Like, again, there are frustrations, and I don't want to suggest that fans and media can't be expecting or hoping for more from this team, but just taking a step back, this hasn't been negative. And whether or not they can take the next step, that'll be the next call. But again, continuing to make the playoffs and being competitive all the time, even if it's a little bit boring sometimes, a lot of teams would take that. New England Revolution. The big question here is, can Giacomo Vrioni come good? I know that they had Peter Moose's discovery rights before they traded him to Dallas when he signed for Dallas. I can say per sources that if Vrioni wasn't here and they had that open DP spot, they would have been in the market for Peter Musa. And I'm very confident that ownership would have paid the fee that Dallas paid. So that's a good sliding doors moment. But let's see if Giacomo Vrioni can come good this year. They came very close to signing Albert Elise, but the deal never got done. They never quite agreed on the player side of things. Bordeaux's a mess. Apparently Bordeaux owes him money. Who knows? There was a lot going on there, but they walked away from the Elise deal, which I would have loved for this team because I think Elise on any team would be great. But it wasn't a need. But they did. But that shows that they do have enough space for like a max TAM player. How do they use that now, right? Like, they don't have any holes. Like, Dylan Barrero being hurt, like, winger would be nice. But when Dylan Barrero's back, they don't really have any holes outside of center forward if Giacomo Vrioni isn't very good. And you think with that if Vrioni leaves, if he's not very good, he'll leave. And then you sign a DP with the center forward spot. So we'll see kind of what they need. It's not much. Like, this team is really strong. Caleb Porter's a win now kind of coach, so the expectations should be high. What happens with Noel Buck in the summer, and what the right landing spot is, right? What the right deal is for him, that's kind of on the horizon. But in terms of immediate needs, they don't really have any. NYCFC, they've been quietly cooking this winter. They have spent a whole lot of money to bring in a winger called Ojeda. They are closing in on a deal for Jovan Mijatovic, a highly rated Serbian youth international. The deal would be north of $8 million initially. I was told it's being finalized. Then I heard that there was some issues with it, so it's not quite done yet. I've heard some more optimism in asking around today, but again, at time of recording, nothing has been done or announced, but I'm expecting it to get done. We'll see. That's a lot of money. Again, with Fernandez that came in last year for $5.5 million, they've got a lot of discretionary spend on this team and a lot of exciting young talent. I'm curious to see what it looks like. So they need to finalize that Mijatovic deal, see how quickly he can adapt and if he's going to be the starter ahead of Bakrar or not. They need to probably add another left back, unless McFarland is ready for minutes, because Kevin O'Toole's fine. He's solid. He's okay. I don't know if they're going to be able to add another left back or not. What the hell happens with Tyus Magno? They've added 2 key left wingers this offseason. And Tyus Magno has just straight up not been good since Tati Castellanos left, which is sad because prior to that, I had him as like the best left winger in the league. So it's really disappointing. We'll see. Obviously, no move happened before most of the transfer window closed in Europe on deadline day, despite he was linked to Bologna. Who knows? They brought in Andres Perea after a successful loan. Again, this team is ready to win now. If they don't start quickly, the pressure on Nick Cushing is going to be very, very high. He will be on the hot seat. I think him and Vanny coming into the season are the 2 coaches that could be on the hot seat immediately if things don't go well to start. So that's one to monitor. But NYCFC, they have a lot of talent. And again, let's see how some of these young players adapt and how quickly they can come in. Down the home stretch here, the New York Red Bulls. They started the offseason big, hiring Sandro Schwartz as head coach and bringing in Emil Forsberg from RB Leipzig. The big news about the Forsberg signing is that this is feels like the first time that they're making a significant signing that's over the age of 23. So that should be good news to supporters. 2 years ago, Aaron Long's last season was with the team, he was the only player over 25 to start more than one game, I believe. And last year, I think Corey Burke was the only player over 26 or 27 to play meaningful minutes. So it's a welcome development that the team made a win now move. And I'm very, very excited to watch Emil Forsberg in MLS. I think he'll be very good. For right now, the club could add a third DP. What if they add a DP forward if they're going to play the 4-2-2-2 under Schwartz? Or if they play a 4-2-3-1, maybe a number 10. Maybe, I think that they need insurance for Lewis Morgan and his injury history. Dante Van Zier, his profile and pedigree makes too much sense for him to be, I guess, as inconsistent as he was last year. Again, the suspension notwithstanding. As long as he's fit, I think he'll score goals. He fits within this team. He fits what they want to do. He scored a ton of goals in Belgium. He made his Belgian national team debut in his prime. There's no reason to expect him to not be better this year, but hey, we'll see. Outside of that, they'll need a succession plan for John Tolkien at left back. I think that there's going to be a movement here in the summer, whether or not a deal happens. I think that's kind of just the timeline for this. He's very, very likely to be on the Olympic team and play regular minutes for the Olympic team. And the summer transfer window will still be open in Europe and elsewhere. So, again, I know that he's got a lot of interest abroad, and just we'll see what the timing is there. But the Red Bulls do not have a ready-made replacement on this team for Tolkien. Orlando City have been among the most busy teams this winter. Obviously, the Duncan Maguire saga currently pending Thursday's appeal review, whether or not he's coming back to Orlando as expected now after the EFL rejected that Blackburn's registration error, their plea to let him be registered to the team. So that deal, it looks like it's going to fall through. Along the way, they were interested in bringing in Luis Muriel. That interest got much more urgent to make it an immediate deal when Duncan Maguire was headed to Blackburn, or so they thought. So Luis Muriel, they are finalizing a deal to sign the Colombia international striker from Atalanta. That's the first thing they need to do here is just finalize and announce that deal. I'm expecting it to get done. All good. Fee around $1 million. And then after that, they're set, really, right? Like, and I don't know at the time of recording if they've announced David Bracalo yet, center back, but that's just a formality at this point. They've added Bracalo, who's going to be the third most expensive center back in league history. They've added Nico Ladero, who is a legend in this league. They are adding Luis Muriel, who is Atalanta's third all-time leading scorer, I believe, to a team that already had Facundo Torres, Martin Ojeda, Ivan Angulo, Wilder Cartagena, Robin Janssen, who they signed to a new contract. This is one of the best teams in the league. Expectations should be very, very high, not just in terms of winning points, but looking like they did in the second half of the season rather than the first half of the season last year when they struggled to turn possession into real chances, and it was all a little constipated, all a little maybe they won today, but it didn't really look good, like what's going on with Martin Ojeda, blah, 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 Ersan Kara, Orlando should be viewed as one of the best teams in the league with the 11 that they have right now, with the squad they had right now, just not the 11, right now, Martin Ojeda or Nico Ladero would be on the bench. Duncan Maguire, if he comes back, would be on the bench. $3 million U22 initiative signing. Ramiro Enrique would be as well. Rodrigo Schlegel, who won a starting spot last year, would be these are just guys who are on the bench. This team is deep. This team is talented. This team is mostly in prime. Facundo Torres is taking another step forward. I'm assuming Martin Ojeda gets a second full season in MLS. Again, I can't say enough, positive things and big expectations for Orlando City. Philadelphia Union have been low-key this winter, and that's just kind of how they like it. They brought in a few players that you've never heard of. They've brought in a player from a team that I never heard of, Anderson, who was an American who allegedly was playing in the 5th division in Spain and then the 3rd division. And again, I forget the team name off the top of my head. It is rare that there is a team that I've never heard of that comes up in a transfer. So well done to the Philadelphia Union for that. They still have Julian Carranza, though there are transfer windows open across the world, and maybe somebody in MLS tries to trade for him. Who knows? We'll see. So in terms of immediate incomings, I think that they're all set, depending on what happens with Carranza, really. Leon Flock is injured. I don't know what the timetable is, but it's not a short-term injury. I think that they still need to sort an outgoing for Joaquin Torres. I really liked that signing last year. Didn't work out in any way last year. So time to move on the same way that they did with Andres Perea. I think that just makes sense. Outside of that, they still have Blake, Glesnes, Elliott, Martinez, Carranza, Gazdag, Bedoya, McGlynn, Ure. Team's going to be really good, even if it's not sexy, because there haven't been many additions recently, many additions that we know. Still Kai Wagner as well. So we'll see what the Philadelphia Union looks like in 2024, but I'm expecting more of the same. Toronto FC, oh boy, we got a lot here. John Herdman is in as head coach, and they are completely rebuilding. They still have a lot of needs. They still have Insigne and Bernadeschi, so let's just start there. Does Bernadeschi stay? I'm surprised that the transfer window closed in most European leagues, and he's still here. Insigne, not so much. Will John Herdman play with a 3-4-2-1 like he did with Canada? I think so. Toronto don't have enough center backs to even play a 4 at the back, let alone with 3 center backs, right? But I think that they're just going to be building that way. Again, like I've said with Austin and DC, most important for this team right now is long-term building blocks and a healthy salary cap sheet. Their biggest problem in recent years was just chasing short-term fixes and overspending. Petretta, Matt Hedges, Sean Johnson, go on down the line. It's just been a lot of again, short-term views for long, it's created long-term problems. Jason Hernandez, since he took over as GM, he's been having a long-term view, and that's really important for what this group is. They need to add at least 2 center backs. Maybe Kerr is the answer up top, but I think that they'll probably need another center forward at some point. They probably need a left wing back and a right wing back. Central midfield, we'll see whether Osorio, if they see him as an 8 or in that kind of front 3. Herdman has played Osorio at both spots with Canada, but Canada had more, deeper central midfield options. So we'll see, but again, there's just so many questions up in the air for Toronto FC. And this window is more about outgoings and the health of the salary cap and assets than anything else. So yeah, it's crazy to say that about a team that has Bernadeschi and Insigne and the second highest salary cap in the league, but here we are. All right, that'll do it today for the Eastern Conference. The West, it'll come in the morning. Little trial and error. I think you can tell that the lighting is a little different. You astute watchers who have been checking in over this video. This is being recorded, this little outro, a little later than the rest of the video. I thought about doing this as one big video, and then it was, 55 minutes. And I thought that was a little stupid. So I decided to break it up retroactively into two here. I told you it was going to be a learning curve, learning process. Again, please comment, tell me if you like this. If you would want one big video, which I'm not sure. Again, I won't separate the start times too far between these two. Again, running this now and then the other in the morning. But yeah, let me know if this is what you like and whatever. I don't know. I'm here to serve.